Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. And for all you Audie fans, he's right here, looking for love in all the wrong places, as usual. I was hoping I could show you baby bunnies, but apparently somebody got a little jealous. We'll see if we can bring a baby bunny out later. But yeah, come here. Let me just pick you up so they can see. No. All right, yeah, I know you hate that shoulder. His collar is absolutely filthy. He's been playing outside in the dirt, and I need to get this off him and change it into something a little more presentable. But he's been very resistant. Sometimes he gets very attached to these individual collars, and he fights with me when I try to take it off. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll drug him. Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about that. It's looking like a good idea. But anyway, he's been behaving very well with the little bunnies. Yes, he still wants to keep them. He still wants them to be his pets. Not happening, but he doesn't know that yet. And quite frankly, I've stopped trying to explain it to him because he seems perfectly happy in this delusion that the bunnies are here to stay. All right, we are going to very quickly take a break for our newly shortened intro. Yes, I'm paying attention to you. And then we will be right back. Well, Audie's decided he doesn't want to go anywhere, so I'm going to let him stay for a few minutes while we at least get started. So, the sock puppet, and presumably Nutmeg, but I'm pretty sure this is the sock puppet's idea. They have decided that the new offering they want to tease out to Netflix is a biography of the sock puppet's late mother, Diana. Well, I say late. I'm not sure he really believes yet that she's truly dead, or that she's not reincarnated as a leopard, or living in a snow globe, or whatever. But certainly he doesn't have a clear sense of Mummy is no longer with us the way the rest of us do. This biography is alleged to be scheduled to come out in 2027 on the 30th anniversary of Diana's death. Now, that is just like a week away. And I know this because she died on my birthday. If you read her date of death, you will see that because she died in Paris, it's listed as August 31st, 1997. But here in the US, because of the time difference, it was actually August 30th, my birthday, and that is when she died. So yeah, I know exactly what day it is, and I cringe to think that the sock puppet may be dropping something like that on my birthday. Eek. Well, here's the problem with this. Now, for starters, I think a really good, really objective, a journalistic biography of Diana would be nice. There's plenty of film footage of her from her time, not just as Princess of Wales, but in the months preceding that and the months after she and Charles divorced. I think it would be a good call, but we are not going to get journalistic objectivity from the sock puppet. This is his precious mummy who is still in deep, close touch with him, still running his life, still proving to him every day that he really is her favorite, and she likes him better than she liked William. Good gracious. And the reactions of the royal family to whatever Harry's version of his dear departed, or maybe not, sainted mother is just going to be tragic. We all know that the sock puppet believes Camilla destroyed his parents' marriage and that she is the Wicked Witch of the West. good job there, that his father was a negligent husband and a negligent father. We all know that he believes he was the favored son, even though, thought I was going to get rid of him. Even though we all know that although Diana loved her children, she was very clear about which one of them was going to be king. So the only way Harry could tell his version of the truth is by slamming Camilla, slamming Charles, and slamming William. And for those of you who think, oh, but his father has cancer, let's not forget the way he treated the late Queen Philip on his deathbed during the Oprah interview. No, this will not trouble him at all. If he puts out his truth, the only thing that can happen is he can destroy whatever time Charles has left, and Harry himself has admitted he doesn't know how much time his father has left, and leave Camilla not just facing the loss of her husband, but with a clear effort to smear her reputation. And Lord only knows what he is going to try to do to his brother. So just keep that in mind the next time you read one of those stories about how desperately Harry wants to reunite with his family and get absorbed back into the royal family. Yeah, right. This is a really good plan. But here's the thing. Nutmeg and the sock puppet need this, because the only ventures they have ever gotten involved in that have proved even remotely successful was the tell-all interview with Oprah, the Harry and Meghan docudrama in which they continued to slam the royal family, and Harry's book Spare. So all they have to sell is dirt and secrets, which are mostly made up, about the royal family. They know this. This is just another vehicle to air the family's dirty linen, most of which is probably going to be fabricated, before the general public. Why? Because that sells. That will make them money. So with that in mind, I started taking a look at their track record with regard to their ventures. Now remember, when they left the royal family in 2020, and so we've got like 5.5 years to look back on, it was because they wanted financial independence. I know. And then, what was it? A few months later, the sock puppet was moaning to Oprah about the fact that his family cut him off financially. Yeah, go figure. The hypocrisy just doesn't register on their scale at all. Nevertheless, their efforts to become financially independent involved tell-all books, interviews, and docudramas about the royal family, and a few other ventures that have been largely unsuccessful. Now, let's take a look at some of those. Does anybody remember Nutmeg's financial involvement with a weirdo coffee company called Clever, C-L-E-V-R, with no E. Clever Blends Coffee. Yeah, these are the people who are selling instant coffee, and that's what this is. I swear to you, I've gone to their website, I've looked at their products. It's powdered coffee or whatever in a bag, and you have to add your own hot water. But here's the kicker. It's about $2 a cup. So if you want a cup of this stuff, and you have to make it yourself, you're going to have to pay $2 for it, which is wildly overpriced for instant coffee. after Nutmeg's first blast of publicity for this company in which she had allegedly invested, we heard nothing. And then after that, we had another investment, and this was the Cesta Collective. And these were straw or reed or rattan handbags made by African women and sold at a staggering markup by European women, and Nutmeg invested in it. And I did a video about that because it turns out that the African women, these artisans they were claiming to support and elevate, were being paid pennies. So yeah, we are elevating African female artisans 2 cents at a time. It's very shameful. I mean, frankly, it is just very shameful because the makers of these bags are getting such an insignificant portion of the money that you or I, as consumers, assuming we were motivated to spend our dollars in that direction, would be giving to the European marketers, which would also include Nutmeg, of these bags. Yeah, that really does help out these African female artisans, doesn't it? It's scary. I could put those women on my personal charity roster. And mind you, I am just one individual, and I am not trying to pretend that I am some kind of philanthropist, but they'd probably get more money from my charitable contributions than they are getting from this company for which they are making the bags. Scary stuff. I just don't get it. So, yeah, let's move away from that and let's look at some of the other ventures. Does anybody remember that Disney documentary, Elephants, that was narrated by Nutmeg? I'm sure we all remember the sock puppet going to the Disney execs and trying to pimp out his wife. You know she does voiceover work, don't you? Yeah. Well, apparently he got her the job, and she had said at the time that the money she made from doing that narration was going to be donated to some program that was relocating elephants in Africa. Has anybody ever heard anything about that since? No, I certainly haven't. I have looked actively for any such donations, and I can't find any record of it anywhere. So, maybe it happened. But the fact is, Nutmeg cannot even walk through a parking lot without bringing media attention on herself. So if she gave her paycheck for that narration to an elephant charity in Africa, don't you think we would have heard about it? Yeah, I dare say we would have. So let's move away from that. Again, another project that was largely ignored. The fact is, everybody, and I have to pull back and say this, because everybody said that the cinematography in that documentary was lovely. The scenery, the photography, just brilliant. Tom Markle Sr. would probably have been proud to have even a generation once removed association from a project like that. Not that I think Nutmeg cares about what her dear daddy likes, but it was the narration that was panned for this documentary. And then, of course, the next project was the Oprah interview. We all know about that. What a disaster. I believe the media documented 17 either outright lies or significant misrepresentations in that interview. And the largest ones we all know about. So I'm not going to rehash that one. And then, of course, Harry joins Better Up so that he can be a life coach. He is apparently, this is crazy, I'm just telling you what the information is. He is apparently certified by this organization to be a counselor. And mind you, this is a man who has no college education. It's just no. They pulled him out of school under a cloud about alleged cheating and allegedly, boosting his grades. That doesn't surprise me. That's common all over. You go to places like Yale and Harvard, and the legacy students whose daddies are healthy donors to the next gym or the new science wing, you find that they are not marked quite as hard as the students who are there on scholarship. So that doesn't surprise me. But the fact of the matter is, this guy, his life is in such a state of disaster that nobody could look at this and say, I would like to take life advice from this man. Yet they're claiming that he has some level of certification, which only, where is my cat? I'm going to send Audie to them. I bet he could get certified. If the sock puppet could, so could my cat. And I bet you a nickel my cat will give you better advice than the sock puppet will. Or maybe not, because he still thinks his dog is alive. Sock puppet still thinks his mother is alive. Yeah, who knows? Maybe he'd give you the same advice as the sock puppet. But again, he's just a cat. He has an excuse. So from there, we move on to the Harry and Meghan docudrama. And despite the fact that it came out much later, they were working on this for a long time. As we saw from that docudrama, they had been gathering film almost from the moment they left the royal family. And in fact, it has been alleged, although I can't prove it, just allegations, that a lot of the film that they used in that docudrama was taken while they were still working royals. Wouldn't surprise me, because in that docudrama, Harry himself said that his exit from the royal family was 2 years in the making.
And this was years in the making. The family and their people knew that we were trying to find a different way of working for a minimum of 2 years. Minimum.
Meaning virtually from their first date, they were planning their exit. So who knows about that? But that was the next one. That one did well. Meanwhile, they had Spotify. They had one podcast, and that was early on, and I believe that was Christmas 2020. Might have been 2021. Regardless, it was an utterly forgettable podcast that was beaten out by a recording of a whale song. And then we had Nutmeg's Archetypes. And there were 12 episodes of that. It was a disaster. No one had any intention of renewing that for another series. No, wasn't going to happen. And that cost them the Spotify contract. This is when Bill Simmons comes out and says, effing grifters. And they tried other projects, including Harry's desire to discuss his childhood trauma with world leaders, because, he's got so much in common with world leaders. The part that is just so disturbed, it's laughable, is the idea that Harry is going to discuss his childhood trauma with Vladimir Putin, whose parents survived the siege of Leningrad. He's an only child, by the way. He lost 2 brothers, one to, I believe it was typhoid fever, and the other to starvation. And what's Harry going to say? William got the better bedroom in the castle. Meanwhile, Putin can talk about a brother who starved to death. Holy guacamole, that sock puppet is just beyond deluded. But that was his idea. So that didn't go anywhere. And then, of course, we have Nutmeg and her desire to do cooking shows which, according to Tom Bauer, has been her desire since even before she married into the royal family. She wanted to be a cooking show star, never made it because she doesn't know anything about cooking. She has a show now. Why? Because she knows something about cooking, or because she's married into the royal family? That's an easy question. Anybody who doesn't get that stays after class. The fact is, everything they have touched has turned into a complete debacle, with the exception of their 3 projects in which they spilled the beans on the royal family. So again, no surprise that they're going to trot this out for another go-round. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot their book deal, because we talked about Spotify, we talked about Netflix. Netflix has dropped them, but they do have first looks, so maybe they'll do the Diana bio. But yeah, Spotify dropped them cold. The book deal apparently has petered away. They got 2 books out of this. They got Spare, Tell All, and they got Nutmeg's ridiculous book, The Bench, which never should have been published in the first place. And one of these days, and when I have an opportunity, if they give me a little more quiet time, I will do this, because looking at The Bench is something we should really do, because this presents such an elitist and culturally biased view of life, allegedly for small children. Very scary stuff. But when you pick through what's really going on with that book, no one in their right mind would put it in front of their child. And certainly, it's not an adult book. All right, enough about that. So let's go back to the Diana biography. Do I think this is likely to happen? Well, first of all, if there's any possibility Harry sees in getting back to the royal family, no. If he has a legitimate interest in returning to the fold, which he might, because his life in California is a joke, and I think even he knows it at this point, he might very well want to go back into the fold. I don't know. If he does, even he would have to see and recognize that putting out a biography that canonizes his mother at the expense of his father, the king, and his stepmother, the queen, and his brother, the future king, is probably not a good move. If, in fact, he's just hoping to make another quick few million, which is pretty much what happened with Spare, then maybe he will go ahead with this. Will they make money on it? Oh, I'm sure they will, because everybody loves the gossip, the drama. However, because the idiot has put it out there, that's 2 years for any other network, including Netflix itself, because they don't have to buy the rights from Harry. They can produce their own biography of Diana. But any enterprising individual now has 2 years to come up with a genuine biography of Diana, something that would be worth watching. Because even though Diana is not the Virgin Mary, the way the sock puppet thinks she is, well, I don't know. He either thinks she's the Virgin Mary or he thinks she's his wife. I can't quite work that out. And believe me, Virgin Mary, Nutmeg, gap that can be measured in light years, so I don't know how he works that out for himself. Regardless, even though I do not believe Diana was a saint, I do believe that she was an interesting person. I believe that her story, which is a story of a young girl who didn't know any better, got caught up in a fairy tale, found herself, without that happily ever after. And the fairy tales always stop when the beautiful princess marries the handsome prince. That's where it stops. The next line is, and they lived happily ever after, but we never see that. And I think that line, and they lived happily ever after, was what caught Diana unawares. And I think that's where things fell apart for her. I think it's an interesting story. I think someone should do this. Someone should make that documentary before the sock puppet gets a chance. Please don't put it out on my birthday. I don't want that. But regardless, there is 2 years in which they can do that. And by Hollywood standards, 2 years is an absolute eternity. So I think the sock puppet has misplayed this one because he's handing the idea out to the world. Diana was a public figure. He doesn't own her. I know he thinks he does, but he doesn't own her. No one needs his permission. And as I say, an enterprising journalist, an enterprising biographer, an enterprising filmmaker could come up with this. And who knows, they might even be able to get the cooperation of the real royals if they tell the truth. I don't know. I would have to say that it looks to me like it's no longer a question of when they crash and burn. It looks to me like it's already happened, like the crash and burn is here for the world to see. And now there is nothing left but picking up the pieces and trying to spin it as best they can. All right, that's what I have for you today. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all next time. And in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.